Warning: the film we will be discussing today is very graphic and disturbing. There will be no pictures or clips of the film, but viewer discretion is advised. Hey guys, the Explorer of Horror here. Welcome back to some more reviews, and welcome to my review, finally, on August Underground. Yes, August Underground, which has a really nice addition out there. I don't know if there's anybody out there. August Underground is one of those things where it has its fans, it has its people that just generally watch it and think it's okay, and then it has the people that absolutely hate it. I've heard people say this is one of the worst horror films out there ever made. I've heard many people say it's one of the better horror films out there ever made. And where I fall with it, I was gonna do these reviews like 2 years ago when I first seen these movies. I watched all three of them in a row, which was a lot to take in for one day. But I figured I was already watching August Underground, I might as well just watch all three of them, get them all done. It was only 3 movies, and they're all very, very short. It was one hell of an experience. It was one hell of a day. Obviously, as you guys seen at the beginning, I put a little disclaimer. This movie does have some graphic things in it. Not quite as bad as if I were to talk about the sequels, which maybe one day I'll do a video where I talk about Mortem and Penance. We'll see. I kind of don't want to watch them again. But this one does have some extreme stuff in it as well. So, graphic warning. I'm not going to be showing pictures or clips, but I will be describing in detail certain scenes. So if you don't want to hear about some torture and killing and, you know, some extreme violence, then kind of steer clear from this review. But when I first seen all 3 movies, I kind of had a weird reaction where I watched the first one and I thought it was a pretty effective film. And I still do, and I'll get more obviously in detail with that in a minute. Then I watched Mortem, which I thought started out so crazy, I actually turned it off. And I don't do that. I've seen plenty of movies, you know, Cannibal Holocaust sat all the way through, Cannibal Ferox, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, you know, American Guinea Pig. I've never had to turn off a movie because of how shocking and crazy and out of its mind the opening 20 minutes was. And Mortem is the most disturbing thing I've ever seen. Now, granted, I'm not the kind of guy to go out there and watch disturbing movies every day. I watch them every once in a while, especially the ones that get pretty high reviews. Like, I remember when I watched Salo. I really enjoy Salo. That's a great film. And I do think August Underground 1 is a good film as well. It's just, to me, the sequels took it too far, where there's not a lot of enjoyment factor there, which is not supposed to. I get it. It's simulated snuff, but you're still making a film. You still got to make it entertaining. You still got to make it enjoyable. You still got to make it intriguing and engaging. And there were things that were done in Mortem that I thought went way too far. And by the end, I was just kind of pissed. And I was like, God damn, what the fuck did I just watch type of film. But, right after that, seeing Penance, kind of the same deal where I watched it. Right afterwards, I was kind of like pissed. I was like, man, what is going on with these movies? Like, you know, I was like, man, what did I just see? And for what they are, I mean, they definitely step up the first movie. They just take, to me, there's a line with films, and when you cross certain things, it gets to be where it's not entertaining anymore. And I thought particularly Mortem crossed some lines where I was like, I will never fucking watch this again because it's horrible, depravity type stuff. And while I'm not a fan of the sequels, ultimately, I do gotta commend the films for getting a reaction like that out of me, because they're not real. They're fake snuff movies. They're supposed to be, you know, simulated stuff about serial killers and everything. They're all fake. They're all special effects. But to get that kind of reaction on me to where I was like, I got to turn this movie off and take a break. This is like insanity. And like I said, the only way I would do that video is by rewatching them again. And I kind of don't want to, because I wasn't really a big fan of the sequels. Because number one, they felt like, besides the gore and stuff, they felt a bit more boring, because at this point when I seen this one, it was at least the first time I had seen something like this, and it was a bit interesting and everything. But to get away from the sequels, bottom line is I think the sequels took things a bit too far. Whereas I feel like this first movie, August Underground Part 1, I think it's still a pretty solid horror film. It's not one of my favorites of all time. I'm not a mega fan of August Underground. There's some people that are absolutely huge, big, massive August Underground fans. But I like the first film. I think it's an effective first movie. I think it does... It kind of need to be the only one, because once you do sequels to this, all you're trying to do is top yourself and top what you did in the previous movie, which I feel like is what they did, and they ended up going to where I was like, there's nothing entertaining about this. I don't want to watch a movie with people puking on each other and someone's cutting a knife wound and doing stuff I don't want to see all that. This one really, I thought, for the most part, kept it pretty hidden, tame, left a lot to your imagination. You're actually not seeing a lot of the killings up close. You're seeing more aftermath and stuff like that, which I felt like that's why this movie is a lot more effective. That's why I think I can say I like this movie a lot more, because it's not as graphic, it's not as gory, it's not them just trying to every single scene top what they did before. So it's not them trying to just every single scene going farther and farther and farther, where you're just like, this is distasteful, this is just depravity, why do I even want to watch this? It's not even entertainment anymore. So the first movie, though, came out in 2001, gets a 3.5 on IMDb. Like I said, very controversial film. Directed and written by Fred Vogel. It was also co-written by Alan Peters, who I know had some issue with this film. And when it came out, he was kind of shocked by the reaction of people, thinking it was real and everything. And so Alan Peters kind of removed himself from the project. Now, the story is a super simple story. I mean, there's a story here, but it's a real flimsy story. It's two serial killers making home videos. They're recording their killings, their day-to-day lives, and the movie doesn't really have a flow. It's just kind of scene by scene, them filming whenever they can. And you got Fred Vogel, who's the lead killer, who's the one that's on camera. And you got Alan Peters, who is the guy behind the camera, sort of watching, observing everything. And like I said, there's a lot of positives here. Like I said, they didn't go too far. It's not showing everything. There's some real messed up stuff. And the fact that you don't see most of it, I thought made it feel a bit more real, made it feel a bit more disturbing. The VHS quality in the first August Underground, I think, makes it look the most realistic in a way, because of how degraded it is. And I really do think they made a realistic film. It's not phony, it's not horrible acting, it's not terrible effects, it's not using CGI enhancements. And they didn't really have any money to make this movie. They put like maybe $1,000 into it. Maybe a little bit less, honestly. Maybe a little bit more. But not $1 million, that's for sure. But yeah, the low budget kind of helps the movie. I know a lot of people say this first movie is the most boring one. I find it to be the most interesting because, like I said, it's a little bit of gore here, take a break, and let's see what these guys are doing. And you're hearing their conversations a lot more, and you know how they're such awful people. And to them, this is just a normal day in the life. You know, you're just sort of seeing they'll go kill somebody and they'll go into a concert and just rock out. Then they'll go back to killing someone and they'll get a tattoo. You know, it's like you're seeing how normalized in their eyes it is, this murder, you know, killing. And that was very effective. I thought Fred Vogel did a great job as the lead killer. You hate him. You hate these guys. You hate everything they stand for. You hate everything they do. And you're supposed to. They're serial killers. They're disgusting, awful people. And there are some scenes that I think are very, very effective, particularly the opening, of just how it kind of starts, and you're in. There's no, with August Underground, there is no slow rise all the way till this crescendo of craziness. You're in it. Even Mortem was like that, where you're in it. You just got to kind of brace yourself. You're in for the roller coaster, and you have no time to prepare. But the opening with them going down in the basement, he's like, I gotta show you something. And there's a girl tied up down there with her nipple cut off, covered in crap. There's just like porno all over the walls, blood everywhere, shit everywhere. It's a disgusting, awful, terrible scene. And it's very gross and nasty. And hearing the commentary by Fred Vogel, which is a pretty good commentary. I listened to that. I know he has like 3 other commentaries on this Blu-ray. If you're a fan of August Underground, the first one, there's a lot of features on this. I mean, hours and hours and hours of interviews and features and stuff. So, and like 3 or 4 commentary tracks. So, they did a great job. This, of course, is Unearthed Films. I know this is kind of getting, I don't know if it's out of print, but it was definitely in high demand because these movies don't get released that often. I know they're releasing Mortem in October. I think Penance might be released in October. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to get those ones because I'm not as big. I can't even say I'm a huge fan of the first one, but I think I like it for what it is. But yeah, I mean, just the chaotic nature of the film. Just, yeah, like there's a scene where Fred Vogel's character kills an old lady in her house. And you don't see it, you just see the aftermath, but it's just very brutal and realistic. And I will say, Fred Vogel being, I think he taught makeup effects at Tom Savini's school, and him having those resources really helped, because there's some gore effects in here that I think look 100% realistic to this day. Like the scene where he's cutting this toe off of this severed foot, and he's force-feeding it to this girl in the chair. That looked 100% realistic. People with their limbs missing. I mean, everything looks 100% realistic. I must say, the makeup effects in the franchise too. I will say Mortem and Penance have makeup effects. You know, obviously they're not real, but they have good makeup effects. And for them to be that convincing looking, I'll give them that. They are very, very realistic. But yeah, I mean, everything is nailed. The acting, everything they were trying to go for. I mean, you got to understand, this is a movie without really a story. I know Fred Vogel says there's a story. There's not really, because it's not like you're just following specific characters. You don't even really know much about the killers. You're just kind of seeing them do what they do. But there's kind of a, I guess, flimsy story going on here. You don't really get to know any of the victims or anything about them. Just kind of random attacks here and there. But yeah, for what the movie is, it's gore, craziness, disturbing, mayhem, and I think all of that is nailed. The direction isn't terrible by Fred Vogel. It's not terrible, it's not bad. I think Alan Peters, it does a pretty decent job as the side killer, behind the camera, laughing, joking about everything. The dialogue is very disturbing. It's definitely effective dialogue for just being disgusting. You hate these lead characters, which is another thing that kind of was like, you have the series where you're following a bunch of characters that you don't even like. These killers are all disgusting, horrible, awful people. Why would I want to follow these people in a story? So if Fred Vogel does say there is a story, it's like, well, why would I want to follow these people and know nothing about these victims, and like, you know, and you end up not caring about much. And that's why I think it works in the first one. Sequels, not so much, because they get even worse in the sequels, where you're like, these characters don't even die, like nothing happens to them, they're just doing this horrible stuff, and we're supposed to just watch them. I don't know. I definitely feel like the first one's the most effective. I think it works in the first one. Sequels, not really so much. But yeah, the first August Underground is a very disturbing film. If you're out there trying to look for disturbing movies to watch, I'd recommend the first one. The sequels, if you want to, you can check them out. I mean, to be a completionist, just know they take things even more further, and it gets to where it's just disgusting and horrible to watch, and they're just puking on people and pissing on. It's just like, I don't want to see any of that, you know. But yeah, I mean, the first August Underground, I'll give it a 2.5 out of 5. It's not terrible, maybe I don't even know if I can give it a full 3. 2.5, but I don't hate it. I like it for what it is. The first one, it's effective, it's disturbing, it's gross, it's disgusting. It's what it is. It's August Underground. If you're a huge fan, the Blu-ray, it's going fast, so go out there and get it if you want to own the Blu-ray. But the Blu-ray is the best way to go. It looks great. The frame rate, I noticed, was definitely improved in the Blu-ray. Has hours of features and hours of commentaries to listen to. So, yeah, Unearthed did a fabulous job on that release. But anyways, y'all, I will see you guys in the next review. Thank you guys so much for watching my review on August Underground. And, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. The Explorer of Horror is out. Peace.